Welcome into One of One Sports. Today we continue with our college football ACC predictions. If you've been following the channel, we did Clemson, we did Miami, but today we are doing the full ACC game by game predictions for every single team. I'll give you the order of finish, all of that in this video. So this took a lot of effort to make, a lot of research into all these teams, their strengths and weaknesses. So if you enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It also included just making this video and then the network not allowing it to download. So hopefully this take works. And yeah, without further ado, in last place, I have Wake Forest, who I think has a really good running back in Desmond Claiborne, has improved coaching in Jake Dickert, but a lot of wide receiver losses and a question at quarterback, whether it's going to be Purdy or Robbie Ashford. I don't know if either of those are going to be great for them. And I have Wake Forest going 4-8. I think you get a good win against NC State on a weekday, start the year after a cakewalk against Kennesaw State and Western Carolina, and then it's just rough until Delaware. Like Jake Dickert, I think is a good coach, and I could see a lot of improvement. Maybe some people think he brought in a bunch of his Washington State players. Wake Forest could be a lot better, but the main reason Washington State was good is in Norman, Oklahoma, and John Mateer. So I don't see the 1 year turnaround. It's going to take a little more time. I think the Demon Deacons go 4-8 and finish last in the ACC. Tied for 15th, I have Boston College, a pretty significant step back from the 7-5 record they had last year. I think the secondary will be good, and I think Turbin has the potential to be really explosive at running back. But weaknesses, a lot of the O-line's gone, and you lose Donovan Ezeruku, maybe is how you say his name. I'm forgetting. I had it last year, but I've forgotten by now. But he had 16 and a half sacks, and naturally you lose that. Your pass rush is going to drop off. Whether it's Dylan Lonergan who wins the job or Grayson, I think you get decent quarterback play, but the schedule's just really tough. And yeah, I have them going 4-8. Maybe you can beat Michigan State or Stanford, who I think are similar tiers to you, but you're going on the road back to back, opposite parts of the country. So I had you losing those, but I think you can beat Cal off a bye. UConn only beats or only beats teams with losing records pretty much. So maybe they could beat you, but I think you're a little better than them. And then I have you pulling off a pretty big upset against SMU. And kind of a shocker for a team that at that point will be it'll be 3-5. But yeah, I think this is going to be somewhat of a disappointing year for the Golden Eagles and finish second to last in the ACC, tied with Stanford, who I think has depth at running back, depth at tight end, but you're bringing in a new quarterback in Elijah Brown, new coach Frank Reich, Andrew Luck taking over the GM position. There's just so many moving parts. You lost a lot of the transfer portal, including David Bailey, makes your pass rush take a big hit. You lose Isle Manor to the NFL. Wide receiver room's not looking great. And overall, I don't think you can beat BYU on the road or Notre Dame from non-conference. And then the ACC play, I think I just mentioned you got them beating Boston College. And off a bye towards the end of the year when Elijah Brown is playing some of his best ball, I think you can get back on the right track in your rivalry with Cal, pull off the win to finish 4-8 in ACC play. Tied in 10th, I have the Syracuse Orange, so this is going to be pretty much a log jam. And this team just loses so much. Like, you have quarterback depth in Ricks and in Jelly, and Fran Brown, I think, is a good coach. But when you lose Kyle McCord, who led all of college football in yardage, I believe, you're going to take such a big step back at the quarterback position, and then naturally the whole offense will take a giant step back. And that's not even mentioning losing Gadsden and Trevor Pena and your top running back and some of the O-line and your leading sacks, or your top two leading leading edge rushers in terms of sacks. So yeah, it's just you lose so much. And yeah, this team went 9-3 last year, I believe, 10-3 if you count the bowl. But that team is gone. And this team, with the schedule that includes Tennessee in the non-conference as well as Notre Dame, you go to Clemson, to Miami, to Georgia Tech, to SMU. This is a brutal schedule for a team already losing so much. I don't think you're making a bowl game this year. It's going to be a rough year for the Syracuse Orange. I have them finishing 5-7. Also tied with them, I have Cal, who's either going to be starting Devin Brown, transfer from Ohio State, or a true freshman at quarterback. So that's a big question mark not listed here. Running back room, you lost Jaden Ott, but it's still a lot of depth there. I think it'd be good. The O-line, I think, could be solid as well. But there's a lot of inexperience. Like, you lose Fernando Mendoza at quarterback, Jaden Ott, I already mentioned. But just across the board, a lot of guys left in the transfer portal, and the front seven is really depleted. And so I think you could have a rough start to the year. You're going to Corvallis, a tough place to play with a lot of new players. I think you're losing that. And then Minnesota has the run game to expose what I think could be a pretty bad run defense, at least at the start of the year. And then I think Duke is going to be your best win of the season. I think you get them in a good spot. We'll see that later on in an upset. And I think you can beat North Carolina off a bye. But overall, after 3 losses to end the season against pretty tough competition, Louisville, SMU, maybe you think you can beat Stanford. I have Cal going 5-7. Could I see 6-6? Sure, like Stanford is beatable. Maybe you pull off one more non-conference game. But for these purposes, I think the Cal Golden Bears just barely miss out on bowl eligibility. Whew. Also tied with them, the Virginia Cavaliers, who have one of the most experienced safety duos led by Devin Neal, and Chandler Morris should be a big upgrade at quarterback coming in from North Texas. But corner is a big question, and the skill positions are depleted, especially losing your top receiver, Malachi Fields, to Notre Dame. Predicting the schedule, the non-conference, not too bad. You win 2 out of 3 as NC State's actually a non-conference for Virginia this year. And then you beat Stanford. You beat Washington State off a bye, who's losing so much, to Wake Forest, ironically. And then you beat Wake Forest. And then at 5-6 with a bye against your rival, I think Tony Elliott and the Cavs pull it off to make a bowl game. So I would consider that a success if I'm a Virginia fan. You beat your rival, you make a bowl. I would take it. Then the UNC Tar Heels, maybe you guys think this is a low, but you're bringing in Bill Belichick, which comes with some pros and cons. You're going to get great defensive coaches, one of the best defensive minds in the history of the sport. But with him coming as a new coach, with so many new transfers coming in, so many guys leaving, the team chemistry may not be there, and there's just so much unproven talent in the secondary. D-line, O-line, like these guys, maybe they're good, but there's nothing proven to me. I don't know what to make of it. And then receiving threats, I think, is a strength. Kobe Paysor, pretty good player. Here's the schedule. Like, I think TCU in week 1, they're just have more coming back. They're going to be more prepared for a week 1 game than UNC. But I think you beat the rest of your non-conference game. Terrible bye weeks. Like, you're not beating Clemson either way. And a bye week before a Friday game, across country at Cal. Bad spot. But I still think you're good enough to go 6-6. Like, you beat Virginia, Stanford, Wake Forest, some of the weaker teams in ACC play. But Duke and NC State, I think, get you your 2 other in-state rivals outside of Wake Forest. So I would say this is somewhat disappointing for Bill Belichick in his first year, but at least you're making a bowl game. I don't know. It's hard to make sense of this Tar Heels team at this point right now. They're one of the more unpredictable teams for me, which also makes them one of the more interesting teams. Our last team tied for 10th place is the NC State Wolfpack, who have a potential quarterback who could be really good. And CJ Bailey started 8 games last year, showed some promise. And then the skill positions in Justin Jolie, schedule's up now. Justin Jolie, Noah Rogers are pretty good, but there's a lot of defensive inexperience, and I just don't see an elite unit on this roster. In terms of the schedule, East Carolina, Virginia, I think you win. You drop the Wake Forest game, though, which one you're probably going to think a lot of the fans are going to think you're going to win. I'm calling a mini upset there. Campbell should be a win. But really what's going to stand out here, I think, is you go 4-6, but the strong end to the year to beat Florida State, beat North Carolina, to make a bowl game at 6-6. So somewhat disappointing record-wise, but the strong end to the year, beating your rival and beating a Florida State team that I think will be decent, will somewhat make up for it. So, yeah. Then the Pitt Panthers come in at a tie for 17. Eli Holstein in his second year, he was impressive to me in his first year. And Desmond Reed, one of the best running backs. Louis, probably the best linebacker in the ACC, so that's pretty good. And then weaknesses, receiving options, there's not much there. O-line has some question marks as well. In terms of the schedule, pretty easy start. And I think much like last year, Pitt gets off to a hot start, 4-1. And then even at 6-3, but for the second year in a row, I think it falls apart at the back end. I mean, look at this. Notre Dame at Georgia Tech, Miami. I think that's just brutal to end the year. And you finish 6-6. So Pat Narduzzi and the Panthers are going bowling. Then I have Virginia Tech tied with Pitt. I think Kyron Jones has the potential to be a strength for them at quarterback. Definitely going to be a strength in the run game, but he's got to be more consistent as a passer. And I think the interior of the D-line should be pretty good, but the O-line is really depleted, and the secondary as well. That's going to make week 1 somewhat of a catastrophe. I think Dylan Stewart could wreak some havoc. You get revenge against Vanderbilt this year, and then you just kind of win a lot of your home games, lose a lot of your road games, but you get a couple big wins in these Final Four, especially the Miami one. I think you get revenge for last year's game. You think you probably won with the Hail Mary. They think, no way. But I think you pull the upset there at the end of the year and finish 7-5. So you lose to your rival, but you beat Miami. So for if there's any Virginia Tech fans watching this video, I would like to know, would you rather beat Virginia or Miami? Because Miami's obviously the bigger team, but Virginia being your in-state rival, like which one matters more there? Last team tied for seventh is the Louisville Cardinals. You bring in Miller Moss at quarterback. You have a good wide receiver tandem in Bell and Lacey, and you have the best running back room in the ACC with Isaac Brown, Duke Watson going to be sophomores. But the pass defense, I think, could be a real weakness. So a team with some good receivers could really exploit you. And then across the board defensively, there's just not that much experience. You have a really easy start, and I think you win 4 of your first 5, only losing to Pitt. The back half is where it gets tougher, where you have a road game against Miami, you play Clemson, you play a road game against SMU, and overall, I'd be finishing 8-4. The highlight of your season, obviously, being this win I have here against Clemson. I don't think Clemson has the offense to exploit Louisville's defense, but at this point in the year, I think Louisville has it more figured out. They're more of like a respectable defense, and I think they'll be early. So I do like the schedule shapes up for them, giving some softer competition to build up. And then you get them at home on a Friday. I just like the spot. I think you can pull the upset and finish 8-4. Another successful season for the Louisville Cardinals. Then tied at fifth, the SMU Mustangs, who have potential or a really good quarterback playmaking. Kevin Jennings, he's great as a runner. I don't trust him as much as a passer, and I'm lower on him than other people. But the O-line should be really good. The receiver talent is okay. Jordan Hudson, Romelo Brinson, RJ Maryland's a good tight end. But weaknesses, you lose your best edge rushers, which were the strength of the defense. You lose Brashard Smith, almost like a 1,400-yard rusher. So those are some big losses. And I do think you take a step back this year. At Clemson, I can't see you winning. Miami, I think there's too talented, like we saw Clemson last year, just out-athleting you. Then Boston College, I think after playing 5 games in a row, including 2 of your last 3 against Miami and Clemson, I think you're beat up. So that's the logic and the upset there. If you want to say, okay, we're not going to lose to Baylor and TCU, I could see that. Maybe I should have gone 8-4. But me personally, I think TCU is just going to be better this year. I like Josh Hoover better as a quarterback. And then Baylor, I think, can run the ball pretty well against SMU and has a decent quarterback as well. They were 50-50 games, just slight leans to Baylor and TCU. So if you wanted to switch one of those, I could see that. But I have the Mustangs going 7-5. Definitely a decline from the 11-1 season in which they made the playoff. Tied with SMU, I have the Florida State Seminoles having a bounce-back year. With the transfer haul they brought in, they'll have a talent edge on almost every ACC team they play, pretty much everyone outside Clemson and Miami. Of course, this does bring potential team chemistry issues, and we saw that having a more talented roster does not necessarily lead to success in last year's 2-10 season, and I still have a lot of questions about the O-line. But Castellanos should be an upgrade over DJ Uyunglele, and Squirrel White and Deuce Robinson really upgrade the wide receiver room. You do play some tough games like Alabama, Miami, Clemson. I think they're just on a different level for you. It's kind of same with Florida on the road. Can't see you winning that. But I think a lot of these teams like East A&M and Kent State, obviously. But like Pitt, Stanford, Wake Forest, I think you've elevated slightly above them. Virginia Tech, NC State, I think you're like on a tier with, and you get the home one, you lose the road one. Made sense to me. And you finish 7-5. Just me in the middle these last 2 years, 12-0 versus 2-10. So you get it back to a respectable level, but not back to that level where you're competing for ACC title to playoff or anything. But at least you're back in the right direction. Tied for third, and we are in our final 4 teams. I have Georgia Tech, who has some of the best skill position players in the ACC with Jamal Haynes, Malik Rutherford, Eric Rivers, and Haynes King back at quarterback. I think makes up a really good offensive attack. The pass rush, I don't think it's going to be great. It wasn't great last year, and you lost your best pass rusher, Romello Heights, at Texas Tech. And then the O-line, you lost some starters, you brought in some transfers, you brought in a 5-star freshman. So it has potential, but obviously it's not necessarily going to be great. And I do think you need to be pretty good, as Georgia Tech loves to lean on the run game. For the schedule, I think you get a big win in week 1 against Colorado. And I have this Clemson game circled. As we know, Brent Pry has gotten his team up for big games. They've won so many against top 25 opponents. I slightly lean Clemson, but that's one I could see at home. I think Georgia Tech has a really good team. I could see them pulling it off. Then I think you lose to Duke, who's going to be coming off a bye. I think that one's competitive. And outside of that, I think you can beat everyone else. You get a bye before Boston College. NC State could be tricky on the road, but I'm going to go with you. And then I have you losing to Georgia, who's they're Georgia. I don't think you can complain too much. But you are at home against them and Clemson. So if you can pull one of those upsets against one of those big teams, I could see Georgia Tech being in the mix for the college football playoff. I'm that high on the Yellow Jackets this year. And I have them finishing with a final record of 9-3. Also tied for third place, I have the Duke Blue Devils, who I'm just way higher on than pretty much everyone else. I think Darian Mensah can be, if I had to rank him, I think he's the second best quarterback in the ACC. He was awesome at Tulane as a freshman. He's only getting better. And the secondary led by Leonard Moore will be very good as well. Also, the O-line will be very good. Skill positions, sure, it could be a weak point. Like outside of Andrew Anthony, not a ton of great receivers. And then the interior of the D-line is not as good as the edge. But in a Manny Diaz defense that's going to be focused on applying pressure, I'm not too worried about that. So I think this team is a lot better than last year's team, which even though they finished at 9 wins, a lot of that was because of close one-possession games against pretty weak opponents. But I think you upgraded pretty much everywhere, including at quarterback. I think Mensah is better than Malik Murphy. And the schedule's still very workable. Like at Clemson, sure, that's a loss. But outside of that, like I think at Syracuse, at Cal, you're going to lose one of those in the double road thing. But then Georgia Tech, you get a bye right before it is one of your tougher games. Illinois, you essentially get a bye before it as one of your toughest games, and it's at home along with the Georgia Tech one. So I think it's a really workable schedule with a team that's being really underrated. I think their over-under is like 6.5. I think Duke's really going to exceed that, and I have them finishing 10-2, right in the mix for the ACC title, just behind our top two teams. And we have a tie for first place with two teams I already did, so I'm not going to spend too much time. I got to click through this. But yeah, I have Miami going 11-1, only losing at the road to Virginia Tech. I don't like double road games to end the year, but I think they have the best O-line. They have a good pass rush. They're super talented. The one game here, Notre Dame was really tough to pick, and I could easily see 10-2 with a loss there. And then Clemson, I have the same thing, 11-1. I already mentioned the loss to Louisville. Obviously, LSU and South Carolina, really tough games. But with Cade Klubnik, top receiving core, really good D-line, I think Clemson's going to be one of the best teams in the country, finish at 11-1. If you want deeper dives into either Clemson or Miami, check out those videos on the channel. I did way deeper dives into their rosters and what I think they'll do and broke down each game one at a time. Recapping what I have here, Clemson and Miami will go to the ACC title game. Duke and Georgia Tech just barely miss out. Florida State bounces back, and you can see the rest of the standings here. In terms of who I have winning the ACC title, you guys can stay tuned. After I finish all the power conferences, I'll do conference champion predictions, playoff predictions, final rankings, all of that. So stay tuned. And yeah, make sure to leave a comment. What did I get wrong? Who am I too high on? Who am I too low on? If I had to guess, Duke, Georgia Tech maybe could be potentially too high on. SMU, maybe Boston College, maybe too low on. But yeah, make sure to let me know what you guys think. Like I said, this was tough to make. Took a couple attempts to get this video. But if you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe. Until next time.